Remind everybody that the sports calendar is loaded and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on all the action. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use on the tournament, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. You guys just have to visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, so let's get to the Guardians now, who got their first win in Seattle yesterday. Not their first win of the season, their first win in Seattle. To improve to 4-2 on the season. We talked last week, or I guess
Friday.
Was it Friday?
It was Friday.
Yeah, about creating a buzz. So the diehard fans obviously are into it, but the casual baseball fans, the casual Guardians fans, have had nothing to get excited about with this team the entire offseason. They had made no significant additions. They were coming off a bad year and made no significant additions. So as a casual fan, there was really no reason to be excited about this season. And so they started a 10-game road trip, and my thought was if they could come home at least 6-4 and maybe 7-3 or better, then you really create a buzz and maybe some excitement with the women's Final Four here, which we'll get to later.
The eclipse.
The eclipse and opening day, and then maybe it creates some buzz, especially if the Guardians can win on opening day, because they're going to play the White Sox, who are a pretty awful team, so they can continue their role. They got off to a good start, winning 3-4 against Oakland. They lost the first game to Seattle on Tuesday. What's today? Wednesday? No,
Today's
on Monday. And then last night they bounced back in what was a great pitching matchup on paper, Luis Castillo and Shane Bieber, and they got the job done. Mike, start us off. What do you got?
Listen, Shane Bieber's back, baby. It may not be a complete. I'm not going complete overreaction, but you want to hear the two pitchers in baseball history since 1901 that have 20 strikeouts, at least 12 innings pitched, 1 or 0 walks allowed, and no runs allowed in their first 2 starts of the season?
Shane Bieber
and Shane Bieber in 2020. Yeah, the only pitcher ever. Now, granted, it's 2 starts. He pitched against Oakland, who has a AAA at best lineup. Seattle's lineup's no juggernaut.
Yeah.
But Shane Bieber, through 2 starts, has looked every bit of the part of an ace the Guardians had in 2020. They hoped to have last season. He struggled due to injuries, and now they have back this season. The one downside of this is the better Bieber pitches early, the more likely I think he is to be traded at the midseason deadline or at the trade deadline midseason, because the return on his value will be at sky high. But the Guardians have been begging for an ace with all the other variables in this rotation. You have Gavin Williams, who's hurt already. Tanner Bobby didn't look great in his first start, 1 start, whatever. Logan Allen, Tristan McKenzie, Cookie Carrasco. Those guys are a bit of question marks still. This guy was supposed to be the proven commodity in the rotation. Every 5 days, you give the ball to Shane. You think you have a great chance to pick up a win. And so far through 2 starts, he has delivered on every ounce of that promise. Offensively, it was great to see Bo Naylor hit a home run, get 2 RBIs on the board through that. They made solid contact off a good pitcher in Luis Castillo, who has struggled earlier in the season. But the big picture for me is Shane Bieber looks back to the form the Guardians needed him to be at in order to compete this season in the AL Central.
Gee, you're one of the casual Guardians fans.
Yeah, so I think the story of the season so far has been Shane Bieber. When you look at it, watching this game, Castillo was pitching. He was pitching well too. 6 strikeouts over the first few innings that he was pitching, and it was a pitcher's duel. The Guardians got some hits off of him. Bo Naylor was able to hit a home run. I told you I needed 20 from Bo Naylor. 1 down, big fella. Let's keep it moving. But the thing for me is, I look at it and it's a point of frustration sometimes when you hear, especially when you see a pitcher in Bieber that looks like he's getting back to that Cy Young form. The problem is, every time you mention his name, the first thing we talk about is the trade. The first thing we talk about is moving him out for pieces and parts. And look, I like the Guardians have a farm system and they like to accumulate these parts. But let's be honest, the track record with getting these pieces has not been 100%. The track record for getting these huge hauls of people for Cy Young award winners is hit or miss. It's not guaranteed that if they trade him for a bunch of prospects, any one of those prospects are going to be great. I think for me, and this may not be a really popular take, is, look, if Shane Bieber continues to pitch like that and you get Gavin Williams back and Bobby, Allen, we haven't even talked about McKenzie, and if McKenzie is actually back to what he was doing a couple years ago, you got a team that can definitely win the division, and you also have a team with that type of rotation that is formidable for anybody. So for me, if Shane Bieber continues to pitch this well, I'd actually take the non-conventional thought process and say, look, I might not get nothing for him, but it gives me a chance to win this year. I'm not moving him. Like, we might just have to let him go.
I'm not going to worry about right now what they may or may not do at the trade deadline. That's a conversation for a later time. I believe it or not, as well as he pitched, I am a little concerned that his velocity was down a tick. He had been a guy who threw 93, and in spring training he was throwing, and last year his velocity was down. He was averaging like 91, and in spring training he was back up to 93 again. And his last start he was around 93, and this start he was closer to like 91.6 or whatever. It may not sound like a big deal. You're like, well,
it does make a difference, though.
It does make a difference. Now, you wouldn't know it. It was interesting because early in the game, I actually thought Castillo looked better. The first 3 innings, the Guardians couldn't touch Castillo. Whenever they got on base in those first couple of innings, it was like a blooper. And in the first inning, Bieber looked a little vulnerable. He gave a couple of hard hits. And then there was a big play, first and second, one out. I think it was Mitch Haniger was up, and he hit a bullet, but it went right to second base, and they got out of the inning. And they eventually got out of the inning with the next batter. And then Bieber was just on lockdown the rest of the game, and Castillo kind of lost his mojo in the 4th inning when Naylor hit the home run off him, and the game turned from there.
Only 83 pitches, though, Bull. I like the fact he had command. 83 pitches overall. He wanted to stay in that game. And I think it's good. His velocity may be down a little bit, but how do you feel about his velocity being down, but he still added another pitch, which I think
besides the velocity being down a little bit, and hopefully, it's still early in the season, so it could, for some guys, it can build back up. I love everything else I'm seeing. His movement is fantastic. His fastball, some guys throw a fastball and it just kind of stays straight. His fastball moves. It moves. Yeah. And not everybody has that kind of movement that he has. Again, we'll see better lineups going forward. The Mariners have a decent, it's an okay lineup, especially near the top. And so I love what I'm seeing for him. That's the only little bit of concern I have. But through 2 starts, he's pitched ridiculously well. And by the way, in 2020, he won the Cy Young. It was a COVID season, so I don't give it the same credibility, but he still won the Cy Young.
I'm curious if Jay noticed this, and or if you guys did. There was, it's a Pitching Ninja on Twitter where they overlay all the pitches together. Sure. And I put it in tag board if you want to pull up the Pitching Ninja one. His arm angle on his breaking balls and fastballs so far through 2 starts this season have been almost identical, which may be making up for the lack of velocity. Is hitters just simply can't pick up what's a fastball, what's an off-speed pitch. And I'm not sure, and I'm not going to pretend to tell you guys I went back and watched every pitch last year in 2020. I don't remember it looking as identical as it has through 2 starts this season, and that may be how he's able to overcome a 91-mile-an-hour fastball versus a 93-mile-an-hour fastball.
He's got him swinging at some bad pitches right
now. And there's a couple of pitches, like he threw 92-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the middle of the plate.
Right.
And I'm like, why are you not seeing? They didn't even swing at it. So that
looks like a slider out of his hand.
Yeah, it shows me he may be confusing people with his pitch selection and his arm angle.
His command is completely on point right now, and it does feel like the batters are having a hard time seeing the ball out of his hand.
Yeah.
Because as you said, they're taking some good pitches and they're swinging at some bad pitches. That's when your mechanics are right.
And you can see, it's almost identical. But if you're looking side by side here, where it comes out for both pitches is nearly identical. Trying to pick that up in real time with half a second to react.
Look at that.
It's incredible.
Yeah. See the slider. Oof. Yeah.
But there's no tell. There's no distinct giveaway that he's throwing.
He looks exactly the same, and he's just.
Look,
his mechanics are perfectly on point right now.
It looked like he's a little more in shape. I had to pause this one, but it looks like his lower body is ready to go. It looks like he has, and you very rarely see Bieber showing that type of emotion.
That was interesting when he did that.
Right.
Yeah.
You never see him show emotion, but he got kind of fired up there.
Yeah, he's like,
listen, they needed it because the rest of the rotation, first time through, didn't pitch particularly well. And so getting off to this good start, be nice if they could win this series in Seattle and take the rubber game today. But
today's pitching matchup's tough, too. Logan Allen versus George Kirby for Seattle.
Yeah, that's an edge for Seattle in that matchup. Kirby's
really
phenomenal. And when I say he's been phenomenal, I mean the last 2 years, and he did pitch great in his first start for Seattle. Logan Allen gave up the 2 home runs to J.D. Davis in his first start, and he's on paper, not including Carrasco, of course, is their worst pitcher, I think. So I give the edge to Seattle in this pitching matchup. So the Guardians are going to need to get the bats going, which they did for those 5 runs off Castillo.
In your mind, Bull, let's say the Guardians are able to win tonight. Take
Yeah.
2 series to start the season on the West Coast.
Yeah.
3 of 4 from Oakland, 2 of 3 from Seattle.
Yeah.
You have that series with Minnesota coming up, but to start the season 5-2 on the West Coast, granted, Oakland is what it is, but Seattle's a
that'd be
contender.
huge.
It'd be a
But
big
they got to
confidence
keep it
boost for
going
the
against
team,
Minnesota. They got to come home with at least 6 wins, and really I'd like to see 7 to get that buzz going. And then there's a lot of casual fans that go on opening day, and how much they are locked in beyond opening day is a lot of times, as silly as it sounds, based on how the Guardians perform on opening day. Because there are some fans that don't watch games regularly, and maybe this is the first game they've seen, and it's opening day, and if the Guardians don't do anything offensively on opening day, right now the weather's supposed to be decent for opening day.
And Shane Bieber is scheduled to start opening day
good.
against the White Sox, which is the dream matchup you'd want if you're a casual fan going to your first game, trying to figure out how much investment
The White
you want to put
Sox
into the
stink.
team.
I mean, they're one of the worst teams in baseball, so the Guardians need to – it'd be nice if they kick their ass. I mean, if 2 weeks in and 1 series in, we're looking at the Guardians are like, have 9-10 wins and 3-4 losses, it's going to be reason to get excited.
I need, and trust me, I need them to get off to a good start. I want them to have a good April or May because, look, man, we was talking about it before. I mean, we talk about these football topics. These football topics is a bunch of polls.
Yeah.
Lists.
Random rankings.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'd rather be talking about some real live games.
Yeah.
I need them to be good.
Yeah, especially if the Cavs are going to go out in the first round of the playoffs.
Like,
Hopefully they won't.
Right.
I'm very negative about the Cavs right now. Hopefully they'll shut me up. I'd be very happy if they did.
By the way, the
We'll get to
playoffs.
that later.
The playoffs in the NBA is sneaky long.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like
God.
it's like
8 months
Up
and
to 2
change.
months.
It's like 3. Like if you play start in April, the finals is in June.
Yeah, it's 2 months.
It's hot outside by the time the finals start.
That's right.
Yeah,
It was hot the day of the parade.
Yeah, it was. It was. Listen, it was hot the day they won. The Cavs won the finals.
right.
I didn't have no AC at the time. I was in my old house. I was like, whew.
I was watching that game at Dustin's brother's house, and his brother has a pool at his house. And when the Cavs won, I didn't, but almost everybody else there ran and jumped in the pool.
What have you seen so far from Bo Naylor, though?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that I didn't like that Hedges is starting his 3rd game at catcher, but
Yeah.
if they're going to do that, at least have Bo Naylor at DH, which obviously they did yesterday. So Naylor's now played 4 out of 6. I want to see him play 5 out of every 6 games, and if that means he DHs sometimes, that's fine. He got off to a slow start in Oakland, but he's played really. He's had 2 good games.
He's 4
in a
7
row.
in the series now.
Yeah. Listen, he's one of their best chances to have an unproven spot become a strength, right?
Yeah.
The Guardians don't have a lot of strengths in their lineup. And so far, shortstop, Rocchio's off to a really good start.
Yeah.
Tyler Freeman in center's off to a really good
Yeah.
start. But Bo Naylor, those guys, this is really their first real opportunity to play on a regular basis. Whereas Bo Naylor got that chance late last year and played great. And so, but coming into this year, he hasn't done it long enough, so catcher's not a sure thing.
Yeah.
I had real high hopes for him, and that's why I want to see him play nearly every day. With catcher, you're not going to play him every day, but I want to see him catch, 5 of every 7 games and then DH a 6th every week. That's what I'd like to see him do. And I think he will once we get deeper into the season.
What do you think about?
But I've been very impressed with what I've seen.
What do you
so
think
far.
about Vogt? It looking like he's going to play everybody at DH. It looks like he has a propensity to play. I don't know, maybe it's me.
Yeah.
It just seems like he's playing a lot more platoon guys early on.
I think early in the season that makes sense. The Guardians have a number of spots where you don't have a guy good enough to say you're going to play every day. I think it's good rotating early. I think it'll change once, assuming Kyle Manzardo comes up in a few weeks.
He's the one that changes the whole equation.
He's going to change that because then he's mostly going to play first, and Josh Naylor, who's not good in the field,
will mostly be your
is
DH.
going to play DH.
Yeah.
And that'll make a difference because sometimes people underrate the importance of a good defensive first baseman. A lot of people feel like, especially in the old days, it's not as much like this now, but it used to be like, just throw the worst fielder over at first base.
Like you throw the biggest kid over
Yeah,
there.
right.
Catch.
Exactly. But it's important. You're going to save a lot of runs on a deep throw, stuff like that. But
especially when you got guys moving down the line that they move now.
Right.
Now a lot of the throws is catch, turn, throw, and you got to either scoop or dig
Yeah.
at first base.
It's going to be interesting over the next bunch of years because with the rule changes in baseball last year, but particularly the bases, right? They made the bases bigger.
More stolen bases.
And this was the stolen base. Not only were there more stolen bases, but the success rate
Way up.
of stolen bases was way up. And why that matters is because a sport that is so analytics based, part of the reason stolen bases were disappearing, or the main reason why stolen bases were disappearing from the game, is because the percentage of success was to the point where it wasn't worth taking the chance unless it was a super fast guy. Well, now with the bigger bases, the success rate is way up. And so now the chance is worth taking it for the medium speed guy instead of just the super fast guy.
Mm-hmm.
And more and more guys are stealing. I wonder if we're going to see more and more athletic. It used to be all about the home run guy. Now we may see more and more athletic
I was going to
players
say
come in.
there's more just faster guys in baseball now.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
How many guys in the Guardians? I mean, Naylor's not a slug by any means, but he's not really churning up the base pass. Other than that, they don't
Naylor's
have.
kind of a slug as a runner.
No, that's what I was saying.
You
but
know, I
like,
shouldn't even say that. He is a decent base runner for a guy. He's not a base stealer,
But
but he's a
my
decent
point is,
base
you
runner.
look at lineups across baseball. There are
Yeah.
very few times where you go, that guy's on first, 0% chance he's stealing. There's no David Ortiz
Yeah.
where you walk him and you don't have to think about it. Like all lineups across baseball.
Neither of the Naylors is going to steal bases. Obviously, when Hedges is in there, he's not going to steal bases. But I mean, pretty much everybody else on the team could steal a base.
They don't, and you know, in years past, even when we play in high school, people used to throw to first a lot.
Well, now you can't. You can only do it twice.
And so now
That helps the stolen bases.
Yeah,
too.
like
you can only throw twice. That makes a big difference. After the second time, you know he can't throw
know
over.
it.
You can get a huge jump.
I mean, people used to throw it over there 5-6
Right.
times in a row. You'd be like, come
Yeah.
on.
And to your point on the defensive first baseman, like the Guardians, even if they have a better offensive season than last year, they're still not an offensive juggernaut. So being able to save every run to help win a game 3-2 or 4-3 as opposed to giving up an extra run by a base runner getting on by a fumbled ball or a stretch that wasn't executed properly, that could add up over the course of a season.
Absolutely.
And 4, 5, 6 of those plays could equal 2 or 3 wins down the stretch. And in the AL Central,
That
2
could be
3
the
wins could be the difference between being the division winner or having a chance to fight for a wild card spot. So,
Well, division winner being out of the playoffs because I don't know if they're going to get a wild card.
but you get what I'm saying? Like it could be the difference.
Yeah,
in,
it could certainly be the difference. And I think, the Guardians have seemed to get off to such terrible offensive starts in recent years. The fact that they're off to a good offensive start is very promising. And the fact that some of their young hitters, Naylor, Freeman, Rocky, are all off to good starts is promising. It's 6 games. They certainly may not keep it up. I don't want to go over the top about it. But it's a real positive. It's a positive start, and it is creating some buzz for the team.
And one last guy you didn't mention, Will Brennan, his average isn't there, but he's hit the ball hard a lot.
He got robbed twice on Monday.
He's had a couple times where he's hit the ball
Julio
hard.
Rodriguez made that catch where he robbed them of a whole. Well,
But I'm just saying,
whatever.
his average, you look at the numbers without the context.
No, he's hit the ball
look good.
well.
He's hit the ball significantly harder than he had any stretch during the
Austin
season
Hedges,
last
on the
year.
other hand, still can't.
And Roky,
He struck out on a pitch that was like 10 feet off the plate yesterday.